Test.
All right. Hello, everyone. Everyone online, everyone here. Um, just wanted to, uh, make sure, let everybody know this is Musical Creation Foundation, as it's labeled on YouTube, as it's labeled on, and what we're going to talk today. This is our second event, first event for the year. I am Jamone Lewis, the president of the board of Musical Creation Foundation. Um, the chairman of the board, Nika Simone, she was under the weather. She could not be here today, but she sends her love and she's watching online. So, without further ado, I wanted to introduce the speaker today, and that would be his name is Brandon Lewis. I know him personally because he's my son. Um, and his topic today is going to be the whole topic is coding as it relates to gaming. But he has a presentation that he wants to go. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce Brandon Lewis.
Uh, oh yeah, I have the there it is. I have the clicker. So today I kind of veered off the original topic because I kind of wanted to not give too much information, like kind of just spill information to you. So today I'm mostly going to be talking about kind of some of the paths that you can take in game development. Some I'll give you access to some resources, and then I'll open it up to some questions. Um, because you know, game development is a very like large field. There's a lot of roles. There's a lot of different parts to it. Um, so I kind of wanted to kind of give kind of a background on that. A little bit about myself. Um, I currently work in the software development field. Um, I've been working in the field for about 6 years now. Um, I do a lot of game development on the side. Most of my game development is um, designed to kind of build my portfolio. And I've been trying to get into the full time game development industry. Um, and I will talk about some of the process with that as well. For people that are interested in pursuing that, definitely better to start earlier than later. Um, okay. Uh, so the process of game creation is comprised of two major parts, right? Designing and developing a game, right? Uh, and that there's a lot of different roles, different people that played very major roles and parts in the process, right? So you got your game designer, you got your programmer, you got your artists, you got your testers, right? Um, so, quick question for the audience: what is the difference between designing and developing a game? It's a very difficult question to answer for a lot of people that are in the industry today. Um, the major difference is that designing is the process of planning, right? That's what happens before anything is actually put in motion. And then developing is the actual process of creating. Um, that seems simple, but a lot of the times that kind of gets like the wires get crossed kind of in industry a lot. Um, and so like that's one takeaway that I definitely want if you're planning on getting into the industry. Make sure that you understand the difference between these two things, right? Especially if you're trying to create your own game, you have to design before you start creating, right? Because if you don't, you'll basically just be writing a roadmap as you go, and you don't want to do that. Okay, so the game development roles, as I listed before, we've got the game designer, um, who has three major parts, right? So you've got your creating the gameplay itself. So if you ever play a game, and you wonder who decided, uh, what button for jumping or what, that's this guy. This guy decides how the gameplay works, how the combat should feel, what's important, right? So like, is it more important that you sit through 5 or 6 different cutscenes in a game, versus, um, constant action, right? That's kind of where this guy kind of works in, the world building, right? The lore, the information about how everything kind of fits together, why you're doing what you're doing, the story, all of that stuff. That's your game designers, right? Considering the players, right? If you ever played, um, there's like a bunch of games where there are controls that don't make any sense, right? Those are people that didn't consider the player, and they just, put buttons where they wanted to, and then when players played it, they just reassigned the buttons because it didn't make any sense, right? So, all three of these things are very important for a game designer to have. But most importantly, a lot of these qualities, that a game designer is supposed to have, right? Creativity, obviously. You can't create something out of nothing if you don't have a creative mind. It's just difficult. I don't. I personally am a doer, right? So you're going to see a lot more information in this presentation about programming, than game design, right? Because I'm personally not a game designer. Are you raising your hand? Okay. Oh, lore. That is the background story and, information about like what's going on in the game, right? So you walk up on a rock, and that rock happens to be the ancient rock of something something, right? The information about the area that you're in, right? The history. It's basically the history of a fake world, if that makes sense. Um, okay. So creativity is very important. That's why it's at the top. It's like that's the most important thing for a game designer to have. Technical skills is also important. It's if I had a penny for every time, a game designer or a project manager promised something that just was not possible, right? So when you're creating something, you do need to consider, do we even have the stuff to build it, right? Is this a thing that we can do, right? Um, a lot of them don't care if we do or don't, and if we don't, you got to build it. But being able to know kind of what kind of work that you're gonna have to put in on the back end is very important. Um, Analytical thinking, right? Kind of that thinking that allows you to kind of put the pieces together, right? Um, the better you are at that, the more later down the road when your game is developed and released, you won't have people being like, that doesn't make sense because of this, and that doesn't make sense because of this, right? So you're going to have to be able to kind of look at the whole picture and the small pieces as well. And then communication, right? Because you're going to constantly be talking with your developers, talking with your programmers, your artists, and the ability to communicate. You're going to see that on like every quality slide on this thing. Communication is probably the most important quality that you can have in any STEM field, in any uh, computer science field, whatever you decide to do. Uh, okay, so programmer, like I said, this is going to have a little bit more information because this is kind of my forte. Um, so you've got two major parts to what a programmer does, right? They write the game code for the engine. They also sometimes write engines, which is a thing that's very common. A lot of game studios they write their own engines, right? Um, they so like I don't know if you knew about Skyrim. That's not like an off the shelf engine. They wrote that themselves, right? The company, it's a proprietary software, right? Unlike Unreal Engine 5 or Unity or Coco 2D, right? Um, so that's one part of what they do. Um, they also work very closely with They also work very closely with the designer to kind of make their world a reality. So that would be implementing the controls that they decided, or implementing, the actual gameplay mechanics, stats, all of that kind of stuff that works on the back end. That's the part that they work on, right? It's mostly in code. Sometimes they use. Well, I'll talk about that on the next slide. All right. So these are some of the tools that I use as a game developer. So you've got your programming languages, obviously. So you've got C++, C Sharp, and Java. Those are the leading coding um, languages for game development right now. Some people use Python. I think I've seen some other crazier languages used, but mostly it's just C++, C Sharp, and Java. C Sharp, I think, is majorly used in Unity, which you can see as one of the game engines that I listed. C++ is mainly used in Unreal Engine 5. And then Java is used as Java, right? Because you can program a game in Java by itself. Um, then secondly, you have your game engines, right? So that would be your Unreal Engine 5, Unity, and Game Maker. All three of these are free, by the way. Um, so for my journey, I mostly have been working on my portfolio. So what that means is you come up with a concept. You are all of these people at the same time. There are resources to kind of help you to gain things that you lack. Um, so, and I'll take questions on that later if anybody's interested in those things. But you've got, so like I said, there was the artist, right? If you're not a big artist person, there are websites where you can get assets and artwork and music and things for your game if you want to make something small. Um, there are game engines like Unreal Engine 5, which have asset libraries where you can just um, download assets and all of those things. They've got an entire library with stuff that's free every month that you can go on and download. So there's not really anything stopping you from creating your own game at any point in time, right? It just takes time. Um, so that's one. Backend servers are another thing that that programmers use a lot. That would be your Amazon Web Service, that's the what AWS is, and then Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud servers. There's also like local servers that sometimes companies will just buy local servers. But if you're going to build your own thing, I doubt you have a server farm in your backyard. So um, it would probably be like AWS or Azure. Um, but so these are the major tools that are used for game programmers. Uh, oh, question. So I haven't seen it. Um, I've seen. Are you talking about in terms of databases? Yes. Yeah. So I mean, they use a lot of those tools on cloud servers. So like, um, that's generally speaking is what that's all a game server is a giant um, Excel spreadsheet with all of your information on it, right? Um, that's really all it is. Um, okay. Okay. So qualities of a great programmer, right? Uh, strong technical skills, right? The top two are strong technical skills and program and problem solving. A lot of the times you're gonna come to a point where you're like, I want to create this game. And then when you get into the process of creating it, there are going to be problems. There's going to be a lot of problems. You're going to run into some issues. You're going to change a line of code and everything's going to break. Um, it's a process where you're going to have to, and there is no tutorial on it because you're making something new. You're not following a tutorial to do something, right? So when you break your own thing, you're going to have to fix it, right? So that these two things are like crucial, um, like they're requirements for the role, right? Technical skills and problem solving skills, right? There are some tutorials, some classes that you can take to kind of build these. Um, I have information about that on the, I think, second to last slide. Um, if you want to look at that, uh, I've got a couple of resources to kind of help you kind of move forward and get started. Um, but those two are definitely crucial for this role. Creativity. Um, sometimes the way to do a thing is doesn't exist. So you'll have to create a way to do that thing, right? If there's like a physics engine that if your designer wants to do something with physics that hasn't been invented yet, you're going to have to make that happen, right? Um, and so that's going to be a constant thing that you're going to be working with. Uh, Communication, told you it's on every slide. Um, Collaboration, I put that on this one because that's where a lot of programmers kind of suffer a bit. Um, Me too. I'm not going to say that I don't struggle with this one. Uh, a lot of us want to be kind of lone wolves, sit in our room and code and not really talk to the team and not really bounce ideas off of other people. Um, but that is important, right? Because if you talk to somebody and they bounce an idea off your head that spin something, now you fix the problem in 5 minutes instead of sitting there and staring at your code for 4 hours, right? Um, so that's important. And again, communication is important, right? You got to work together. Sometimes, so there are a lot of ways that you can. I mean, you can go online and search solutions, but they won't be specific. I think is my point, right? So like if you're making a game that does this new thing, it won't be like you won't be able to just be like, hey, why is my code breaking on the internet? And it's not going to show your code and tell you exactly why it's breaking, right? Um, but yes, so it is usable. I'm going to say this: it is not always accurate. I use it myself. Trust but verify. Um, I I work with a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people submit AI generated code, um, and I've seen it pushed up and it not work. And then nobody knows why it doesn't work because they didn't write it, right? Um, so it's very important to kind of verify that stuff. Um, AI can give you a good idea of where to look. I think is the best way to use that tool. Um, But to have it solve all your problems, I don't think it's there yet. It might be by the time y'all are deep in the industry, you know, but I don't know if it's like ready for you to just put your stuff in and it just spit out working code just yet. Um, so some people do use AI for debugging. I mean, it's good. Um, I've never used it for debugging, um, but I know that. I mean, because I thought we were because generally, like we're talking when people use AI, they use like Copilot or I don't know what the Google one's called or Chat GPT. Um, and generally speaking, what they can do is give you information about information that's already out there, right? And it sometimes it makes some inferences that allow you to like figure out exactly what you're trying to do, but it's code that's already been written out there somewhere that it's just splicing together, right? Yep. Right. Yeah. So that syntax errors it can fix. Yeah. That's yeah. It can fix easy. That's not a problem. Um, but because all it has to do is run it through the compiler and just read the yeah. So like, but um, more complex issues like memory leaks, right? I mean, I don't want to get too advanced, but I'm saying like there are issues where you'll move a variable from one place to another, and suddenly your code is just breaking and you don't know why, right? So that kind of stuff that you won't know when you click the button to tell it to run, right? Um, Most other things it'll just tell you though. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so artists. I am not an artist, but this is another role that's in there. So they're in charge of level design, character design, and particle effects. I did do some particle effect work though. It is very fun. Um, but yep. So these are the things that they're supposed to do. So when a level has like um, some hard, you know, structures and like all of that stuff, the castles and everything that's in there. That's they're supposed to do that. The art direction, right? So like when you have Borderlands versus like a game like um, Mass Effect, right? It's a different look to it, right? Some games are more cartoony. These are the guys that kind of make those decisions, right? In collaboration with like the designer. uh, Important qualities of an artist, right? You've got your creativity, analytical skills. Um, Again, um, that's specifically for like particle effects. Those are very difficult um, because you have to kind of, it's art wrapped with physics. Um, so it's a little bit more complicated than just, oh yeah, I'll just, paint this animation. It's not, yeah, it's not like that. No, particles would be like an explosion, right? How a fire deals with gravity. How yeah. So it's like, but I want the fire to look beautiful, but I also want it to look physically accurate in the world, right? Yes, ocean waves. That's how yeah, so it can be a little how splash looks, right? When my feet touch the water, that kind of stuff. That's what like it's kind of broader than just particle effects with water, because that's a different beast in itself. But that's generally what we're talking about, right? Yeah, it's fun. It's just it requires a lot of thoughts. And if you know physics, I don't know physics, but if you know physics, it's really it's probably a lot easier than just randomly changing numbers and trying to make it so that it looks right. Um, mhm. So I think it already has somewhat. So a little background. I can't remember the name of the library, but they Unreal Engine has a series of assets that were scanned in and generated by AI. They look better than anything that a human being could create. They walked out into the wilderness, scanned a bunch of rocks, a bunch of trees, a bunch of sticks, a bunch of grass, and then just put that data into a computer, and it spit out a bunch of very high quality 4K assets that we just couldn't paint. It would take us a long time to paint these things. And they released those for free because it didn't require any manpower, right? Um, a lot of that stuff is kind of changing, especially in the game industry. Um, I think for the game industry specifically, it's a good thing. Um, you're not going to be able to do the same thing with like character design and things like that yet. I think eventually that probably will also be a thing. But for the game industry, for your indie game studios and your small game developers, I mean, we're seeing games that are coming out of people's garages that are just like triple A games. You've got what was it, Lockdown, made in somebody's garage. You had Among Us made in somebody's garage, right? And it's just you're seeing a lot of these things kind of just like grow and grow, um, and a lot of these games are just being released. So it's like, yeah, yeah. Well, it's helping smaller game studios that don't have access to the resources to make good assets have access to good assets, right? Um, then all they have to worry about is character design. Yep, yep, yep. Okay, okay. So that's the artist. Obviously, they're going to need collaboration and communication. Um, that is, I mean, those two are going to be very important for everyone. Um, okay. Your game testers. These are the fun guys. These are the guys that their main job is to play the game. Play the game from start to finish. They test it. They're supposed to verify if there are bugs in the game that were reported, fixed, and then they're still in the game. This is the reason these guys, because they didn't verify that the bug was gone, right? These guys' fault. Their job is to document and report all of the bugs. Any bugs that were communicated or sent out, they're supposed to try and replicate them and um, that kind of thing. So these are the guys that their whole job is to play video games all day, um, with a spreadsheet open next to them all day. Um, Qualities of a great game tester: passion for gaming, attention to detail is very important for a tester. That is a tester in any um, STEM field. If you're going to be a programmer, a program tester at all, attention to detail is very important. Analytical skills, right? The ability to see a problem and understand on some level why it's happening, um, so that you can communicate that on a document and send it to your programmer so they can fix it, right? We're talking So that stuff is generally done by the DevOps team, which I did not put on here. These are game testers. So these are the players. Yes. So these are paid for simulating players, right? They're supposed to, try to break the game and do things that a normal player would do in the game from start to finish to get, some sort of bugs, report them, um, that kind of thing. Yeah. So this is live testing. Yeah. Yeah. And then of course collaboration and communication are also very important. Um, I have those for everyone. It's very important for everyone to get along, communicate. Um, I've been in I've been in the industry, like I said, for 6 years. Um, I have not I've been in rooms where these two steps do not happen, and it's not great. Um, I felt like it was important to put those on here, um, because as I hate saying this, as I get older, I'm seeing more and more of issues with these two. Um, and people aren't really talking anymore. Everyone wants to telework and not communicate, right? Um, so that's those two are very important. Okay, so I know this text is small, but these are some tools to kind of get you started. Um, oh, I've been okay. These are some tools to kind of get you started. So you've got Scratch. I don't know if anyone's actually used Scratch. You've used Scratch? Yeah, they used to do that in school a lot. Yeah. Um, so Scratch is a great way to kind of learn the basics of programming, and hone some of those technical and analytical and problem solving skills early on. Um, Unity um, uh, is a free game engine, that you can download on pretty much any computer. Um, it is My friend from Nintendo says that it is the one of the major things that they use for um, like plugins and things before they test a game, for the actual Nintendo Switch. So that's important. That's a very useful tool. Unity is where I started out, before I moved on to Unreal Engine. Um, it's a great tool. Like I said, it majorly uses C sharp. I think it does also use C++, but majorly it's C sharp. Um, Code Academy, Khan Academy. Uh, I used that one a lot in high school as well. So that one's good too. Uh, for your artists, I don't know many artists, but for your artists, it would be Blender. I really just made that section so that I can say Blender, because Blender is a really good tool. It is used for a lot of things. Um, and in fact, I didn't put it up here because I kind of want y'all to kind of explore Udemy a bit. Like you see the last part that I have up here that says there are a bunch of classes that you can take on Udemy. You do not have to wait for um, your high school to offer a class, right, on something, right? Udemy offers like $15 classes, full-fledged beginner courses on how to use Unity, how to create your full game, right? It's like got a bunch of courses on computer science, how to model things in Blender, how to draw in Photoshop, how to they've got pretty much everything put together. I think I have a class on there for how to get a career started in the game industry. Um, there's like a bunch of classes that you can take on there. Um, they have sales like every week that take your $15 classes, make them like 5.99. Y'all out here buying Fortnite cards. You can pay 5.99 for a class that will teach you literally everything you need to know about how to use Unity, or everything you need to know about how to use Unreal Engine 5, or everything you need to, you know what I mean? So, but Blender is a really good tool, And for most of the Udemy classes that I've taken, Blender is like something that you need. I won't go too far into detail, but it's really good for um, when you download assets off the internet and need to import them. It can do some things to assets to allow you to put them into Unreal Engine 5 or Unity or whatever you need. Um, so, um, but these are some of the tools. I guess I don't know if I have the ability to send these out. Okay. Uh, okay. 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 And that's it. Any questions? Adding no graphics. I am. I'm going to set up, and I've been meaning to do this for a while, a new email address that people can send me stuff to. Yeah, I'll send that to you and get it sent out. So the most fun game that I made um, was definitely it was a remake of Zombies. It was like a it was basically it was its own like if, I don't know if anyone's ever played Call of Duty Zombies. It was basically that, and I put like cheat codes in it and stuff for myself, and it was pretty fun. It was also um, a very difficult version of the game, but it was very fun. That was the most fun one that I made. The most difficult one would be the zombie game that I'm making now, because good God, um, yeah, stats and um, camera movement, physics, and it's all on me. Like it's like yeah. So um, like I said, building your portfolio is a long and strenuous process. Definitely best to start early. I started a little late, but it's fun. Um, so yep. I would say depends on the engine. So for Unreal Engine, right, you would think a lot of people think like, oh, I'm gonna have to code the physics on every object. I'm gonna need to put the now for Unreal Engine, you just put like a preset pack on it, click a checkbox, and it has physics and does exactly what you want, right? There's no programming involved for destructibles, right? For like that's a perfect example. I thought I was gonna have to program a box to break. Nope. You just click a box, check a checkbox, put the asset in, and set it to how you want it to break, and it breaks. Right when a certain amount of what is it? When it gets hit with a certain amount of force, that stuff's all programmed in preset. Um, now it is a lot of programming to do a full game. Period. Um, of course, the more complicated you get with like stats and get with um, combat or mechanics, that's going to be a lot of programming. Um, Another thing that I did not mention, you also have blueprints, right? I don't know if anyone's familiar with LabVIEW. Oh God, I'm that old. Nobody uses LabVIEW anymore. Um, uh, nobody uses LabVIEW anymore. They used it when I was in high school, but um, yeah, nobody uses LabVIEW anymore. But they've upgraded it. It's now called Blueprints. I think Unity has a version of it. It's called something else. But it's basically like visualized coding. So instead of having to worry about syntax and it's like click and drag boxes, you set values and you click a little node and you put it over here and it's all visualized. So it's not like you have to kind of, because I think for a lot of people that's kind of the stopper, right? Is, looking at code and trying to understand it. And um but when you just have like a bunch of boxes and you click this and you move this over here and it's visualized, it's a lot simpler to understand. So those are also available with the packs for Unreal Engine 5. I think Unity has its own thing too. So, yep.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brandon. I appreciate it. You did a fantastic job. The people online are responding to your presentation. Um, no, they didn't. They didn't have any questions. Um, I, you know, I'm a little personal with what he was talking about because he won't put me in the game. He won't let me play. He won't take the coach off the bench. He keeps me on the bench. But I did get a chance to go into the lore. So I want to explain the lore a little more. He just touched on it. The lore talks about from his game, he said it was a zombie game. Where the Lord tells you how it became how they became a zombie, what was a part of that, and then there was a there was a group of bad guys that were not bad at first. They were pissed off because the government did something to them. And he explained all it. The lore is like 25 pages long. It's the storyline behind the game, and then goes back and he does his own game. For me, it's amazing to watch as a beginning programmer. If I would have said programmer, he would have got mad. But I'm a beginner guy. I'm a network guy and security guy. But it's amazing to see the process of the gaming. And with that being said, I wanted to touch bases with you guys. Or give you updates on the next things that's coming up with MCF. I had it up, but I don't know why it's not coming up now. Staying over here. You like that? Okay. Just staying right here. Okay. All right. All right. I can't get the whole message up. Um, I had it up. Okay. So, well, the next thing that's going on with MCF is next month on the 8th, we're going to tie into this coding that, as it relates to gaming. We're going to go into um, actual music production behind the gaming. The guest speaker there would be Gabriel Perez. I know his dad, so I got him to do it. So Gabriel actually works for a gaming company. And this is, I don't know if this is surprising to y'all, the first time you ever heard this, because it was the first time I heard it when he told me. There is a major gaming company actually here in Ashland. And they're like in the Air Park or somewhere in this area. I don't know exactly where it is, but Gabriel works for them and does music production for the games in the background. And he gives the production and direction on that. So he's going to talk about that next. And he's going to actually talk about how games are created from his company's perspective and how he adds in the direction, the musical direction. The other thing that we're having in March is, and that's on the 15th of March, and I'll send all this stuff out to everyone, is the college yeah. So, and I believe they go to the final four. So and then that's a field trip. So if you're interested, you got to let us know ahead of time. They only have 10 slots, and two of those slots is for the chaperone. So um, that's March the 15th, and I'll send all this out again in the form of an advertisement type deal that gives you all of the detail. But I just wanted to give you an update, and I really appreciate everyone that came today because Musical Creation Foundation is all about the arts. Um, we tied in the STEM. And that's why we started with the STEM. So we started with the technology stuff, and then we're gonna start bleeding into the, like in was it April, we do something with yeah, we do the aviation with the black aviators. Um, so that is still on. Well, we actually take you down to was it Stafford and Stafford County, which is on the other side of Fredericksburg, and you go to that actual airport. They talk to you about pilots, being a pilot, and then they take you up in 172, 152 Cessna. So, and it doesn't cost you anything. So all you gotta do is show up. That's another field trip. And then we go into the music portion of that musical creation, and in May we deal with the drums. So I got my board here. Board is can y'all raise your hand? How you doing, Mr. Larry? Right, and Pam, the vice president. So we got things going on in Musical Creation Foundation, and it's all about the youth. So if you're interested in STEM, music, art, spoken word, anything dealing with that type of stuff, please let us know. Tell your friends, because this is the first one of this year, first event this year for us. But we're going to continue to do these things, and we're going to continue to do more, and try to get. It's all about helping young people navigate through this world, from our experience. I mean, I'm a musician. I'm also a cyber guy. So I'm like fighting both worlds. But I know the worlds and I know how to get through it. I know people like Chris and Jakar here, who's in that music industry, in that music world, AJ, who does production. So those are the type of things that we try to bring to the youth and help you move through that. So it will help if I mean, the more the merrier, but I'll be honest with you, I will help what we got here. So I'm all about helping. So if you have any other questions for me about Musical Creation Foundation, you can ask now, you can ask later. I will send you an email. It'll come from me direct. Um, and if you got questions, then just shoot them to me. Okay. Again, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to our first deal. All right. All right. Yeah, but they're this is the board.